Hello and welcome to this video. Today we are going to highlight an aspect of gaming that I think it does not get the attention it deserves. I'm talking about usability, specifically of user interfaces used in computer and console games. Very broadly speaking, the usability of a system refers to the ease of use of an interactive system. To make a system more usable means supporting users in achieving their goals in a more efficient way and avoiding errors, frustrations and other such issues. In gaming, you might know it as introducing quality of life improvements, but in the academic world we refer to it as the usability of a user interface, or in general the user experience of using a system. You see, I'm a university professor in human-computer interaction. More specifically, my expertise is in research on virtual reality and interacting in virtual environments. But don't worry, this won't be a lecture. I'll try to keep the HCI theory at a minimum. Here we will be looking at something more basic, such as what kind of usability problems some game interfaces have, potentially even propose some solutions, and maybe ask ourselves the ultimate questions. How come game studios that have millions of dollars in their budget seem not to dedicate enough resources to UX design or usability evaluations? Or if they do, they surely could do more, such as considering whether to hire me for a usability consultation. I have been gaming since a very early age, and I thought it could be interesting to finally merge these two passions of mine, one being research in HCI and VR, and the other being gaming, of course. So I wanted to start with Hearts of Iron 4, because it's a very UI-intensive game. I play many Paradox games, and this is also one of my favorites. However, it is about 7 years old now, and with so many DLCs added on top, it has become a collection of different systems that don't work very well with each other. Crusader Kings 3, which is another very popular Paradox game, is being more recent as a much better UX, for example. Okay, so to perform this kind of discount store evaluation, we can base ourselves on a set of heuristics or guidelines. If you have followed a computer science degree with a human-computer interaction course, you might have heard of the so-called Jacob-Nielsen's principles for interaction design. Knowing them, we can see how well a UI or any kind of interactive system adheres to them and identify problems. This should be enough to find the top 50 or 60% of usability issues. So if you work on your own games, this might be useful to follow these guidelines to improve the UX of your games and hopefully avoid angry reviews later. So here are the top 10 usability problems that I found while playing Hearts of Iron 4. Okay, so I've loaded this game that I was playing, where I am the Roman Empire. The war is almost over, it's 1946, and I think this provides a good overview of what the game is like in the late stages of the war, where you likely have been playing for a while and some interface related problem might become more apparent than in the beginning of the game. So one game UI screen that you will be dealing with very often is the production line. Here you see an overview of the different parts that you need for your armies. Now, in order to train them, you need to build the planes, the tanks, the weapons, the support equipment, and so on. By looking at this view, right now I cannot see everything that is going on, and I think this violates one of the principles of showing the system status at all time. So how could this have been improved? For example, we could have made a decision based on whether we think that our players are going to pause the game while making changes to the production line. In how it looks now, the interface is on the left side of the screen. It only takes a column. But if we knew that, for example, players are going to pause the game, then we could have decided to use a bigger part of the screen than what we have done here. And like it has been done in other parts of the game, we could have had 3 columns, for example, one for land-based parts and one for planes and another for ships, and distributed the different lines along this column so that I immediately see, okay, everything that I'm building for the army with a single glance instead of having to scroll. Another aspect of the UI that could have been improved is the visualization of the focus tree. Especially for bigger nations, the visualization tends to expand in a horizontal direction, which is something that even in web design is generally avoided. No, you don't see many websites where you're required to scroll from left to right rather than from top to bottom. One way that this could have been improved is to, for example, allow us to collapse subtrees. For example, if I'm not interested in seeing right now all the focuses associated with this particular subtree, I could have clicked on a button here that would have collapsed this, recovering some of the space. Now, in Crusader Kings 3, the genealogy tree allows us to do exactly this. Another improvement will be to show users the path to a particular focus that I might be interested in. For example, if I want to research or to develop this focus here, while I'm hovering, I should be able to see the path, like from the root of the tree going down to this particular subtree, and highlighting the focuses that are necessary to achieve this. Whereas it is not possible to see, you can only see the ones that are available with the green one or the ones that are blocked with the red line. But here I would have expected to see the traversal, the path to that particular focus to be highlighted. Next is the research interface. So there are multiple problems with this. One is the lack of coherence between different tabs of the interface. In some, you have this kind of tree layout from top to bottom. In others, you have this more horizontal layout. So why is in one tab is it vertical and in another is horizontal? Improving this UI is, I think, very easy. You just need to get all your designers together in the same room and agree on a common style, be it top to bottom or left to right, but as long as it is the same and consistent across all parts of the interface. So another problematic aspect of the UI is, I think, the visualization of the different theaters. This right side of the screen. Now, I certainly could have been more organized into how I assign the different armies that I have into these different groups. For example, I ended up somehow having a Italian theater, which has armies here in Finland, other armies currently invading the United States, something else in Canada. Now, if the idea is to maintain an association between the geographical region and the armies that are in it, then the visualization here could have helped me being more organized into, for example, showing where this association is lost. For example, if this army belongs to Europe, then it should be shown in a different way to make me understand that this army somehow doesn't belong in this group, or even avoid that the whole situation could have arose. If this group only refers to armies in North America, for example, then I should not be allowed to assign to this theater an army that is in Europe. Another aspect of the game that could have been improved is this bottom right visualizations of events that are going on. You see there are a lot of items here, each referring to something that's happening in a different part of the world. And you see that they are all pulsating icons. They are competing with attentions with other parts of the game that are going on, like the battle icons here. And while you are following a battle or making plans, it can be very easy to lose track of what's going on. I think the game could have improved the visualization of these events by, for example, assigning a kind of urgency to each event that is displayed there. Like, where do I need to focus my attention? What is the most problematic area of my invasion, of my plans that is not going as well? Like, do I need to pay the same attentions as the New England, or can I ignore the Java Sea or Eastern Australia? Maybe, like I'm a human. I can't. At least I cannot deal with everything at the same time. I probably want to focus on the invasion of North America, because if I make it, then the game is basically over. So if you have bought the La Resistance DLC, you will have access to this game screen that shows the list of covert operations that you can perform. If you click on one, there's not a lot that you can do. You can only choose which agents to recruit from those that are available, and not much else. You can, for example, view a pop-up window here that shows some details of the operations, like the risk. I see that there's a 10% risk, there's a 25% bonus outcome, but I don't really know how likely the operation is to go in my favor. This other parts of the interface is also a bit weird in the sense that there's a lot of space, but I can't do anything with it. I can only think that perhaps at some point the designers were thinking that maybe you could have customized how the operations is performed. For example, these three pictures make me think that I could have changed it, the different phases of an operation. I could have maybe changed it, how the infiltrations happen, how the missions is executed, and how to extract the operatives. Maybe you could have mixed and matched different possibilities to enhance certain parts of the likelihood of success. Now, in this part of the game, I am currently invading North America, and the invasion is not going so well, partly because the enemy has air superiority. As you can see, this is something that the interface tells you, like via color coding. Red means that the enemy has air superiority in this region, and green that I have air superiority, but as you can see, this doesn't help me because the battle is now being fought on land. Now, in order to help me, I would expect the game to provide me more information than what is shown here. I could imagine that as an Air Force general, I could have some information about the enemy, for example, about where the airplanes are coming from which airports. If I had at least an estimate, it could not be perfect. It could be something that you can improve, for example, with covert operations, but it would be something that would help me. For example, if I knew that the enemy is attacking from this airport, then I would maybe focus my land-based forces to occupy or bomb this airport instead of pushing towards other parts of the states here where the other airports are. Now, another part of the game interface that I find a bit frustrating is this overview of, for example, my air forces. All the air wings that I have deployed are shown here. And I found myself that I often wanted to select multiple air wings, for example, to move them to some other place. In order to select multiples of them, I need to hold the Shift key on my keyboard and press each single one of them. And you can see how this quickly becomes frustrating if you have so many of them. And also how there is a disconnection between the wings that have been selected, which have no border, and the one that are unselected, which are all these ones that have this golden border. So I would expect it to be the other way around. So the design is not consistent. So another part of the game that you will have to deal with is the division designer, where you create templates for your armies. So this is how it looks like, and you are presented with an overview of the different battalions in this particular template for a division. If I wanted to create a new one, I will likely have to repeat this process. Now I see that each box here represents a potential battalion, and I click on it and I have to decide which among these choices to use. And if I want more of the same, I need to make 2 clicks, and keep doing it as long as I need. And I find this process a bit frustrating and time consuming. Now, a better alternative would have been to, for example, had little icons here with a plus button, maybe, if I wanted to copy it. So I just press plus here, and it keeps duplicating it, or an X here to remove it. And the same could have been done at the root of this column to drop the entire column, or to duplicate the entire column. Instead of accessing another menu, maybe we could have added a palette of potential choices here to avoid the user having to perform an extra click, because from this dialog I can assume that the interface is meant to be used while the game is paused. So therefore we could have used more of the space that was available. Now we come to the main part of the game. the interface that allows us to create front lines and create battle plans. Now we could dedicate a whole video about this aspect of the game, but I'm going to focus only on one aspect that is easy to demonstrate with this battle that I'm currently fighting. So as you can see, there are multiple front lines. This is a result of maybe something more related to gameplay. I tend to play with armies that are specialized. Now I have an infantry army, I have a mechanized army, and then a tank army that I tend to position in parts of the map that I think they could be most effective. However, after the initial push, they will extend their front line, so that now I have multiple armies overlapping the same front. Now I think the game could do a better job in informing me and how I could reorganize the armies, for example. No? Because if I select, for example, this temporary army, you see that it's all over the place. There are units here, there are units there, they're very far apart from each other. And by looking at the front lines, I can see that there are provinces that have a lot of divisions, like here, and provinces that have very few divisions, like here. And now that I'm looking more carefully, I see that there's even a part of the front that is not covered at this moment, which will become potentially dangerous. So how to communicate this at a glance to the user so that they don't have to go looking at each province, identify the borders to understand which areas of the front need to be reinforced. For example, one idea could be to draw the front line by changing the thickness of each province according to the number of units that are in that particular province. For example, here there are like 3, 4, 6, 7 divisions, and therefore the border here could be drawn with an increased thickness, whereas here that we only have 1 unit or two divisions here, it could be a little bit thinner or non-existent here where there is none. In this way, I would immediately be able to understand, okay, that this area of the front needs to be reinforced, and this is likely a well-protected area. At least this is, if I understand how to play the game, which is still open to discussions. And finally, let's have a look at the supply screen. So this should communicate to you how well supplied your armies are in the different provinces of the map. Okay, it's difficult to improve the situation while the battle is being fought, but I argue that the game could make a better job of communicating how supply could be improved if you want to make some changes to it. For example, let's say that I want to build more railway connections, and if I create a new line here, I see that there only the new line is displayed here, but I don't know how it will improve the surrounding area. I only know generally that more railway lines are better than none, but to make a more accurate choice, I would need to understand how exactly this is going to affect the map. And especially if you want to prioritize some provinces, it would have been beneficial to understand how occupying a particular province is going to affect the rest of the surrounding area. I see that there's the enemy has a supply hub here, here, and here, but I don't know how that is going to change if I occupy this province. So will it be better to push here, here, there? Who knows? Alright, maybe those weren't the top 10 most problematic issues that the game UI in Hearts of Iron 4 has. I'm sure there are other aspects of the game that we could talk about, but those were interesting aspects of the UI that I wanted to highlight and even propose some solutions in this video. If you have suggestions for other games that I could evaluate next, feel free to write them in the comments below. If I own the game and if I played it, I will gladly give it a go. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.